Seals have been exterminating penguins for thousands of years. But there's a place where nature just breaks down. Here, bitter enemies make a truce in order to survive. You have to look for allies to cope with the vagaries of evolution. So decided the characters in our video. If they succeeded, we're about to find out. No one in the animal world is surprised by this easiest scheme: the simple relationship between predator and prey. Some want to eat, others don't want to be eaten. But at some point, animals realized that this wasn't the only option. Along with the usual prey, eastern screech owls began bringing small blind snakes into their nests. Not because they mistook them for worms, these snakes are something of a cleaning service. Unlike other owl victims, they get into the nest alive, and for one purpose only: to clean there. As a rule, the prey that an owl brings to its house is various dead animals. These owl treats attract insects, and who better to deal with them than a snake that eats insects? "Hey, clean it up! I have a date tonight!" They say some owls even let their maids go after cleaning up. This kind of mutually beneficial cooperation is called mutualism. It can be found between hundreds of different species. The simplest example, familiar to everyone, is insects that collect nectar and pollinate plants at the same time. Everyone wins, but mutualism isn't just a fun friendship in the wild. Scientists believe that evolution directly depended on it, and had it not been for the ability of organisms to cooperate, life on Earth would have been very different. Most likely, we would have remained unicellular organisms, and that'd be it. No YouTube. Seals and penguins are far removed from mere creatures and are usually in a state of constant animosity. You can understand them. When one forms the basis of the other's diet, it's hard to become friends. But even these animals strike a truce when they find themselves in South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands. This is a group of islands in the South Atlantic where penguins and seals congregate to breed. The usual harsh laws of nature don't apply here, because the very existence of these species depends on breeding. To survive, they have to become good neighbors. Yes, of course, in the wild animal world, it's everybody on its own. But cooperation is a way to protect themselves, to get food, to survive, to evolve. And one of the most stunning examples is the birds called greater honeyguides. Small creatures with an amazing feature. Honeyguides have learned to cooperate with humans. Yeah, you got it right. They weren't domesticated. It was their decision. When a honeyguide notices a human, it will do everything it can to attract their attention. It'll fly close to their face and make loud noises, and do everything to make the person follow it to the hive. And the rest is simple. Humans know how to scare the bees away and collect honey, so the birds end up with beeswax. Some experts believe that these tiny birds discovered the benefit of humans as early as 1.9 million years ago and have been using us ever since. Okay, we've been cooperating ever since. However, sometimes such an alliance is far from beneficial. Honeyguides can be too clever. From time to time, they lead people not to honey at all, but to dangerous animals like wild buffalo or leopards.
Watch it.
But why? Is it revenge? A navigational error? Or is it a way for birds to get rid of animals that have wronged them? Kick that leopard over there! But it seems to be more complicated and scary than that. If honeyguides are hungry, they can deliberately lure a human into a place where people risk death so that they can snack on them later. These birds eat more than just wax. I'll give you a second to imagine everything I just said. This is one of the strangest examples of mutualism I've come across. Next in line is the mistletoe bird, a small Australian bird that can only exist in symbiosis with the Amiema plant. It has no roots of its own, so it survives by attaching itself to a tree. And this requires the help of the mistletoe bird, which in turn feeds on almost nothing but the fruits of Amiema. Having digested them, the bird defecates and wipes the results on a branch of some tree, leaving the seeds on it. They stick so firmly to the bark that they soon germinate, and so the parasitic plant already has full access to the nutrient juices of the tree. Then Amiema has new fruits. The cycle repeats. This is exactly what I was talking about. In order to survive, you have to band together. But there are more confusing examples: devil's gardens. What sounds like the name of a location in some game are in fact special areas in the Amazon forest where only one or two kinds of trees grow, with any others dying. There are no ominous spirits, and the trees aren't to blame either. Myrmelastosia schumani ants are responsible for eliminating competitors. They inhabit the chosen tree and poison all neighboring trees with ant acid so that their home can grow freely. A bigger tree means a bigger colony. But devil's gardens aren't the only example of strange mutualism that can be found in the Amazon forests. There are also butterflies. And butterflies need tears.
Tears in rain.
Almost all of the water in the rainforests of the western Amazon is fresh, so the animals lack macronutrient minerals and primarily salt. Predators make up for the deficiency with animal food, but butterflies don't eat other creatures. Fortunately, that's why they drink turtle tears, a kind of thing found only in the forests of the Amazon. The turtles don't mind, although the partnership is somehow one-sided. However, butterflies have a bit of a problem with this. The Alcon blue, for example. It's a real cuckoo of the insect world. When the caterpillar appears, it does nothing to feed itself, but simply waits for the worker ants of the Myrmica genus to come and take it to their anthills. There, the caterpillar settles among the larvae and eats with them, but eats much more. So much so that the appetite of a couple of caterpillars can have a colony. Wait a minute, why do ants even take home a creature that is most definitely not an ant? It's simple, fake IDs. In the insect world, they're replaced by chemicals, and that's how ants determine insiders and outsiders. The Alcon caterpillar pretends to be an ant larva, and then it's a matter of time. I don't quite understand. Does this count as a partnership? It looks like a simple use of one species by another. What do you know about being used?
They like that tree. He does. He can.
Goats are very interesting animals. They have good balance, a wonderful appetite, and a complete lack of conscience. So, in search of food, goats can easily climb higher. And it doesn't matter where exactly this higher will be, on some rock, on a tree, or on the back of a donkey. However, any other sufficiently patient and more or less tall animal could be in its place. Another goat? Easily. A horse? Why not? But most of all, I love the expression on these poor guys' faces. They understand life. And at the same time, the fact that sometimes cooperation can take some really strange forms. It becomes like parasitism, or even, hey, where'd those fish go? The common remora is a sucker fish, and I'm not kidding, that's what its Latin name means. The remora feeds on crustaceans, plankton, small fish, and is also terribly lazy, so it almost doesn't swim. And why do it on your own when you can hitch a ride? The fish attaches itself with its suction cup to large marine animals like sharks and turtles, and thus makes long journeys. It migrates from place to place, and sometimes there are several such travelers, a whole tour bus. But if anyone could really get well in life, it's the monkey gobies. They live in burrows and mate there as well, although they can't dig the holes, so the snapping shrimps work for them. The shrimps dig small caves and then share them with the fish. The gobies, in turn, well, they don't do anything. They just stay with the shrimps. Okay, actually, these fish kind of monitor their surroundings so that no predator gets too close. These snapping shrimps have too weak eyesight to do this on their own, so they can be convinced of anything. Is that a shark?
No, it's just a shadow.
Are you sure about that? I definitely saw a shark.
Would I lie to you? Don't get distracted.
They're kind of typical roommates. One has to be quiet if the other brings a girl.
I'm not alone in here. What?
Hello, Sean.
You get the idea. At the same time, tarantulas are too cool to share their place with anyone, so they get a pet for a specific purpose. Ants are very fond of eating tarantula eggs. In order to protect its egg sac, the spider puts a frog in its nest. And I'm not sure if anyone asks for its consent. The frog devours ants and other small insects and thus guards the tarantula's eggs. As a bonus, it gets a personal bodyguard to protect it from other predators. But the tarantula remains a tarantula, and sometimes, oblivious, can eat its own pet. Well, oops. I would have preferred a symbiosis with a suckerfish, but it turns out that everything in the wildlife world is about profit. Look, it's really sad. But don't be too disappointed in animal altruism. Now the platypus is going to have to save the day. It feeds on all sorts of little things that live in rivers, and it swims well even in the murkiest of waters. At the same time, the kingfisher hunts small fish and is only able to dive quickly for them. Muddy water prevents it from getting food. It's good to have a platypus nearby. No, seriously, look. Couple of bubbles, an anxious fish, and that's it. Dinner served. I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that the platypus did all this on purpose because, I don't know, because it's just being kind. After all, this animal is as weird as it gets. See you later.